Good morning, everybody. Once upon a lifetime, in ancient India, government was nothing but cruelty and violence. There were more than 3,000 different crimes for which anybody could be thrown into what was called the Black Hole of Calcutta and left there to die. For decades, a tyrant named Ashoka used his armies to beat every state on the Indian subcontinent into submission and into a unified empire. Every state but one. At last, only one land, a land called Kalinga, a land of 1 million souls, remained to be conquered on the eastern edge of India. Early one morning, Ashoka amassed an army of 10 million men on a plain facing the land of Kalinga with the sunrise behind it. From a high hilltop, Ashoka gave the signal, and his 10 million screaming warriors charged toward Kalinga and the sunrise. Then, from atop his high hill, Ashoka saw every single person in Kalinga come out to defend themselves and their land. Ashoka could not call his army back, and his 10 million men devastated the small country. Near sunset on that same day, Ashoka walked across the battlefield, and he wept. He vowed at that moment that his empire would be forever governed entirely on the principles of nonviolence. Ashoka became a devout Buddhist, leading his empire into a state of complete nonviolence. For 25 miraculous years, the entire land of India was without war, without crime, and without violence. May the world one day come to live by nonviolence without such horrific provocation. But we do have proof that such a thing was possible. For 25 splendid, beautiful years, once upon a time upon the earth. So take heart and come, let us worship together.
Good morning. Salam alaikum. May peace be with you. What a beautiful greeting. I love that greeting as opposed to hi and hello, to wish one another peace. Seems like a beautiful way to begin the morning. Welcome to our service, Ahimsa, the way of nonviolence, which we offer in honor of this Martin Luther King Jr. weekend and in response to the unfettered violence that is plaguing our society and the globe. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Lal Shabazz Calendé, and I serve this historic community as its developmental minister. I'm joined this morning by our beloveds, Worship Associate Michael McCormick, Music Director Sonder Choi, accompanist Ryan Humphrey, our choral section leaders, Javon and Keon and Chloe and David, in addition to Mia and Aubrey in the back, and Liz and Pam online, our membership folks, our coffee hour folks, and the many others who work behind the scenes, our ushers and greeters too, to keep these beautiful mornings available to us and to our wider community to replenish ourselves and explore the great religious wisdom of the ages. If this is your first time joining us, or if you're new to our community, we bid you a special welcome. We hope you'll take some time after the service to meet with our membership folks at our visitor table in the courtyard outside. Or you may also sign up for our weekly announcements that let you know about some of the activities going on and ways to get involved with our community. We light our flaming chalice this morning with these words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. May he rest in power. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred and bitterness can never cure the disease of fear. Only love can do that. We must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day, we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal, but we must seek a means, but it is also the means by which we seek and arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. We shall hew out of a mountain of despair a stone of hope.
Good morning, everyone. Out of the ruins and rubble, out of the smoke, out of a night of struggle, can we see a ray of hope? One pale thin ray reaching for the day. We can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but we can build a city of man. We may not reach the ending, but we can start slowly but surely, mending brick by brick, heart by heart. Now, maybe now, we'll start learning how we can build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but we can build a city of man. When your trust is all but shattered, when your faith is all but killed, you can give up, bitter and battered, or you can slowly start to build a beautiful city. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can build a beautiful city. Not a city of angels, but finally a city of man, a city of man.
Thank you, Sonder. Thank you, Ryan. Wow. All right. So, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Santa Monica. I'm Michael McCormack, your worship associate for today. We're delighted to have all of you with us, wherever you are here in the sanctuary or in our online sanctuary for communities across the nation and beyond. We offer programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world, including broad religious exploration and personal development for people of all ages. We also join with other social justice activists to work for justice and harmony in our world. We invite you to help us nurture this beloved community and further its transformative work in the world. May you find comfort, community, and inspiration here. As we gather in this sanctuary and in our viral spaces, we recognize that our homes and the homes of most of our members and the friends are located near the sacred waters and upon the unceded lands of indigenous people. This is the traditional home of the Tongva, Gabrieleño, Kich, Ventureño, Fernandeño, and others, and we remember their presence among us, the painful histories of this land, and the ongoing struggle for equity, justice, and sovereignty. We have some announcements. First of all, we hope you'll consider donating to support the very generous matching grant of $30,000 we received from the Spirit Level Foundation to support the hiring of our ministerial specialist for religious education and congregational life this church year. We are aspiring to meet and exceed this goal to support our dynamic ministry to our children, youth, and families. Since arriving just a little over 3 months ago, our new ministerial specialist for religious education and congregational life, Reverend Amelia, has worked to build upon the important work of the previous year as we were emerging from the pandemic, and she has brought an outstanding and skillful ministry to the life of our community. Donations can be made through our website by choosing Spirit Level Matching Grant, by texting 844-982-0209 with the amount you would like to donate and the code SLF by mailing the church a check with MS Matching Grant in the memo, or with a credit card by calling the church office. Second announcement. The RE program is collecting clothing for all ages and all sizes, as well as toiletry items for making self-care kits all month long. So please join with our youth in putting our faith in action by bringing your donations to the cottage as you are able. And about Article 2, the section of the UUA bylaws that currently contains both 7 principles and 6 sources and forms our UU faith statement is being considered for revision. So join the Adult Programs Committee after the service on Sunday, January 21st, 2024 for more information about how the Unitarian Universalist Association is preparing for an important vote at this summer's General Assembly that would change the way we articulate our UU values. And finally, this one. Do you love animals? If you love animals, raise your hand. We all love animals. If so, please join a group of your fellow congregants in the couch area of Forbes Hall at 11:45 today to discuss the formation of a chapter of the Unitarian Universalist Animal Ministry here at UUSM. As usual, we have several events and meetings on site today, so please see the slide for information. And for even more events and opportunities to connect, please see our website, weekly email, or online newsletter.
And just a word before we take a moment to greet our neighbors, I want to invite us in flu and COVID season to be mindful of our space and also mindful of contact with our hands. I'd invite people to utilize the Anjali Mudra to say hello to those around you, which is a beautiful gesture of recognition and honoring from India, or to use our Sufi greeting, which is to simply touch our heart to acknowledge that we hold that person within our heart with whom we are speaking. So let us take a few moments to greet our neighbors. You want to just say, now let us rise above the spirit to sing our hymn. What's that?
Oh, I didn't get one of those stupid light. Yeah. So I was visualizing body and spirit. Okay. Mm. 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 Okay. Okay, everybody. Here we go. Hello? Doo-doo-doo-doo. Hello. Will you please all rise in body or spirit, and so we can sing our opening hymn. It's number 100 in the gray hymnal. I've got peace like a river.
Peace like a river, I've got peace like
So will you please stay standing for our covenant? Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la esencia de esta iglesia. Buscar la verdad es su sacramento y el servicio de la oración. Vivir juntos más, buscar el conocimiento de libertad, servir a la comunidad con unión. Así es como convivimos unos a otros. If you have a donation for the West Side Food Bank, we ask that you bring it forward to place it in our basket at this time. We have been partners in collecting food for the West Side Food Bank for many years. If you would like to donate food, please bring items they use in large quantities like pasta, pasta sauce, in unbreakable packaging, please. Juice, granola bars, protein bars, and breakfast cereal to our collection basket each week. Our service to the world can be embodied right here each Sunday. All people, young people and adults, are encouraged to give. We will now receive this morning's offering for the West Side Food Bank, and thank you all very, very much. Right. Okay, now it's time for all ages, and anybody who's young or young at heart, as they used to say in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, you're welcome to come up here, and we're going to take a look at a gentleman who's going to be on the screen. His name is Tommy Tuxedo. Can you say Tommy Tuxedo? Bravo. This guy has lived with Eileen and me for the last 16 years. He's been my ostensible writing partner. And what we're going to listen to today while you look up here at Tommy is something by him and for him and in his honor. And it's called a lullaby without music, but we'll try to imagine the music. So here we go, and we'll try not to make you fall asleep, even though it's a lullaby. Love and peace and love from deep inside and from above. Learn to sleep and learn to dream. Feel the hope begin to stream. Learn to care and learn to share right here, right now, and everywhere. Love and peace and love from deep inside and from above. Good night. Once upon a lifetime, many dreams ago, the world slept, the whole world dreamed, and the whole world changed together. In Ireland, Eileen dreamed and Michael dreamed for all the world. In Brazil, Alice dreamed and Miguel dreamed for all the world. In Egypt, Ayman dreamed and Ahmed dreamed for all the world. In Canada, Linda dreamed and Peter dreamed for all the world. Love and peace and love from deep inside and from above. Learn to sleep and learn to dream. Feel the hope begin to stream. Learn to care and learn to share right here, right now, and everywhere. Love and peace and love from deep inside and from above. Good night. Once upon a lifetime, many dreams ago, the whole world slept, the whole world dreamed, and the whole world changed together for the better, and not just once, but every single night, for all the rest of time, forever and ever. Good night.
We enter now into our moments for mindfulness, prayer, and silence. Let's center ourselves in our usual fashion through awareness of our breathing and appreciation for this precious moment and all those who were able to show up for our community this morning. Let us breathe some spaciousness into our innermost beings and release whatever may be keeping us from being entirely present. Let's breathe some calm into our innermost beings and allow whatever is unsettled within us to come to rest momentarily. Let us breathe some light into our innermost beings and allow whatever is constricted to open. Breathing in, we know spaciousness, calm, and light. Breathing out, we share this spaciousness, calm, and light. I have one joy to share with the community this morning. On January 27th, Edna and Phil Bonasich will be celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary. Happy wedding anniversary. You are an example to us all, and we celebrate with you and hold you in this, the light of our beloved community. Remember, if you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone to share with the community, you can do so by emailing us at our new email address. It's easy to remember, joysandsorrows@uusm.org, and then we will include whatever you want to share in our weekly announcements and in our Sunday morning services. Our mindfulness prayer this morning is from one of my ministers growing up, the Reverend Kathleen Rollens. Please join me in the spirit of prayer and silent meditation. Spirit of justice, God who befriends those who stand upon the constant edges of decision, crucial and alone. We are grateful to be together this morning. We are especially grateful to honor and remember the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. But not only him, for there were thousands of unnamed people who put their bodies and lives on the line so that all may be free. And yet freedom comes at a cost, and we know that racism and homophobia, ageism and ableism, sexism and classism, all of these often unacknowledged realities prevent us from fully knowing one another, from creating the beloved community spoken of by prophets and ordinary persons alike. May the work of Dr. King continue to eradicate injustice wherever and whenever we encounter it. May we continue to speak out against injustice, to speak even if we are afraid our words will not be heard or welcomed. May the spirit of Dr. King continue to flow through our daily living. May we have the courage of Dr. King as we continue to stand up for justice, reconciliation, and truth, despite challenge and controversy. Dr. King went to the mountaintop. He saw the promised land, and he reassured us that we will get there one day. May that be no paradisal dream, but a reality in our own time. May it be so. Amen. Let us meditate together in the silence. I will ring our singing bowl to begin and end our brief minutes of silent contemplation. While I was preparing this spiritual message for the morning, a cricket hopped past me and stood still as though trying to decide where best to hide from the fluffy and yet deadly feline that was stalking about my home. During the warm months, we are serenaded by the glorious symphony of these tiny beings who make their homes in the green spaces around our building. I love the chirps of these critters as they transport me to the backyards and fields and forests of my upbringing. It's considered a good omen when they visit your home, as they are thought to be harbingers of abundance, friendly visitors, and good news. No doubt this little fellow ended up sharing space with me when the temperatures dropped a few days earlier and they sought the warmth of a more comfortable dwelling. The minister in me thought, a teachable moment for this sermon. And in usual fashion, I reached for the clear glass bowl nearby, scooped up the cricket, and took it back outside. A simple act of ahimsa, nonviolence, towards another living being that I've undoubtedly repeated hundreds of times over the years. This wasn't always my disposition towards our tiny friends, especially those equipped with 8 legs. But when I began studying nonviolence as a youth, it was one of the first practices I adopted. Compassion could overcome fear, I learned, and the tiniest of creatures could become our teachers. Now, deciding to commit to the spiritual path of Ahimsa as a young person was one of the most important and consequential decisions of my life. It all started nearly 3 decades ago when I began studying the Buddhist practices popularized by the late Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh. May his compassion enlighten us all. He taught me that to understand the nature of reality, I would have to learn to conceive of reality as it is and not simply as it appears to be moment to moment. What is meant by this is we typically conceive of reality as fixed states composed of separate and isolated subjects and objects. This is me, that's you, this is a hymnal, that's the sky outside. Now, he encouraged his students to pierce space and time with the power of their imaginations to perceive reality's true nature. If we approach reality in this way, we find that everything in nature isn't fixed. It's impermanent and it's constantly changing, and separation and isolation aren't the essences of reality, but rather it is a deep and profound interdependence. One example he often turned to was that of a flower. In conceiving of the true nature of the flower, we should be able to see within it the sky, and the clouds in the sky, and the rain falling from the heavens, and the fertile soil beneath, and the seed nestled in the ground, and the labor of those who picked it, all of which have momentarily converged and appeared to us as this flower. Our Unitarian Universalist sources include the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And one of the proposed liberal religious value statements our movement is presently reflecting upon is interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence with reverence for the great web of life, and with humility we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships, the proposed UU value reads. Although these are beautiful expressions of our religious principles and values, interdependence still implies a kind of separateness, in that one thing depends on another and vice versa. Thich Nhat Hanh went further than interdependence in what he named interbeing. It's not simply that things depend on each other, but rather they are inherently a part of each other. The flower can only exist if all of the elements that bring it into being also exist. The flower is an expression of multiple realities converging to share their beauty with us in a unique way. It is from this almost mystical perception of reality that one learns to begin to follow the way of Ahimsa, because one actually knows their deep kinship, their interbeing with all of existence. To bring harm to another is truly to bring harm to oneself. Loving your neighbors and even your enemies as oneself, two of the most profound teachings within our own tradition, point to this profound awareness of the interbeing of all existence. Now, in its most literal sense, ahimsa means non-striking. In Sanskrit, him means to strike, and when it is prefixed with an a, it transforms the meaning into its opposite. Thus, ahimsa is non-striking. It's one of the cardinal virtues of many of the diverse dharmic traditions that find their origins in ancient India. Although many assume this concept was first developed in Buddhism or even the earlier Hindu tradition, it actually originates in the Jaina tradition, which predates them both. The ancient followers of, as we may say, Jainism, promulgated this philosophy of non-striking, such that it spread through all of the dharmic religious traditions. For those who may not be familiar with the Jain tradition, it is a religious movement that claims to have begun with its first enlightened teachers millions of years ago. May they dwell in serenity. It is a tradition of the dharmic eternal way that is non-theistic. There are no deities in the ways that we might think of them. The religion is founded upon the cardinal values of ahimsa, or non-striking, non-absolutism, or the fact that truth is multifaceted and complex, and aparigraha, or non-attachment and non-possessiveness. In the Jain worldview, living from the precepts results in an individual soul being victorious over the cycles of birth and death, and therefore liberated into the eternal. Jai literally means to be victorious. Ahimsa is the principal means of achieving enlightenment and is therefore developed and practiced to the greatest extent possible by Jains. A common sight in modern India are Jains dressed in all white who make it their practice to sweep the streets and sidewalks, not specifically to keep them clean, but rather to brush aside any insects that might be accidentally trampled upon by unmindful pedestrians. You see, in the Jain worldview, like in later Buddhist conceptualizations, suffering is one of the fundamental facts of existence. We live in a universe filled with suffering. And the appropriate religious or transcendent response to possessing the awareness that one exists in such a suffering-filled realm is to orient one's life towards ending suffering whenever and wherever possible. This begins with the practice of non-striking, which respects the integrity of others. And this includes avoiding physical, emotional, sexual, and spiritual harm that would threaten the fundamental integrity and welfare of all other beings. This ancient worldview classifies all life forms according to their capacities for sensory experience, because each window of consciousness is another possible dimension through which suffering may be experienced. One-sensed beings, such as plants, are those which possess only the sense of touch. Beings complexify from simple worms to more complex insects and butterflies, and then to birds and mammals and other beings with a range of various ways of interacting with and processing reality, and therefore a range of different ways of experiencing suffering. This is the logic behind the adoption of a lacto-vegetarian diet by many of the religious traditions of the Indian subcontinent. If the purpose of the spiritual life is to alleviate as much suffering as possible in this reality, then only consuming beings with the least capacity to suffer is one way to live this virtue out through one's daily routines. Likewise, if all beings have consciousness that is capable of experiencing suffering, then the greatest empathy for the whole of existence is to extend compassion even to the least of beings. For Jains, this is the measure of the extent to which Ahimsa is embodied by beings with more complex forms of consciousness like you and me. While the ancient Jaina tradition is largely concerned with the extent to which individuals establish themselves in this way of ahimsa, later theorists believed that it was possible to activate nonviolence as a collective social power to catalyze societal transformation. Deeply influenced by the Dharmic traditions of India and the Universalist Christian anarchist traditions in the United States, Henry David Thoreau published On the Duty of Civil Disobedience in 1849. In his famous work, he discerned that the injustices of slavery and the Mexican-American War demanded people of conscience resist their immoral government. He felt that voting was ineffective and that the state should be abolished through people learning to live and act justly towards one another. He refused to pay the poll tax and was imprisoned because he believed people had to withdraw support from the governmental powers which were attempting to spread slavery. Mahatma Gandhi found inspiration in the theories that Thoreau developed and credited him for helping to build that his movement of nonviolent resistance, satyagraha, or the truth force, that would eventually liberate India from its colonial oppressors. He made the individual protest of Thoreau into a massive movement of active, nonviolent resistance. It wasn't passive at all. He reflected no person could be actively nonviolent and not rise against social injustice no matter where it occurs. It was from Thoreau and Gandhi that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others found the theoretical foundation for organizing millions of people to participate in another massive nonviolent movement for civil rights in America. Now, we're still living in our time in an abhorribly violent world that is causing incalculable suffering and is desperately in need of these shining examples of righteous moral conviction. Politicians and policymakers are increasingly promoting violence to the masses, and the media and social media is multiplying this poison. Our schools and communities are being torn apart by the horrific evils of gun violence. Women, transgender and queer people, people living with mental illness or disabilities, poor people and unhoused people, the very young and the very old, and other vulnerable populations continue to be abused and brutalized by the prevailing cultures of violence. War as a means of solving complex problems continues to be promoted across the globe by our own government and countless others. The extraordinary lucrative military-industrial complex is getting richer and richer with each passing day. The bloodshed in Ukraine and Palestine continues unabated. A recent survey by the Public Religion Research Institute and the Brookings Institution found that nearly a quarter of Americans, 23%, now believe that violence is an acceptable means to achieve political ends in our society. That's frightening. We must begin to follow this way of Ahimsa as individuals and collectively, realizing this deep interbeing we share with each other and all life on our planet. Nonviolence is the answer to the crucial political and moral questions of our time. The need is for humankind to overcome oppression and violence without resorting to oppression and violence, Dr. King once declared. Human history is filled with countless examples of violence being met with more violence, oppression with more oppression, destruction with more destruction, injustice with more injustice. And he recognized that this created a regressive cycle that is incapable of resolving the dilemmas it aims to resolve. He observed, instead of diminishing evil, violence multiplies it. Through violence you may murder the liar, but you cannot murder the lie nor establish truth. Through violence you may murder the hater, but you do not murder the hate. In fact, violence merely increases hate. Returning violence for violence multiplies it, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. We have a choice today, he asserted. Nonviolent coexistence or violent co-annihilation. We must move past indecision to action. So let's move to action. As we side with a liberating love that is the only antidote to the regressive cycles of violence which hold so many hearts and minds in captivity the world over. Let us find opportunities to practice ahimsa in the ordinary moments of our everyday lives as we learn to become the way we follow. We would be wise to listen to the ancient traditions which developed the path of nonviolence, and modern prophets like Thoreau, Gandhi, King, and many others who learned to truly embody that way. I hope someday we too will join them and the world will live as one. We demand a ceasefire and the release of all hostages now. May it be so. Amen and blessed be.
Your financial generosity each week goes towards sustaining the life of our church and towards promoting our UU values in the larger community beyond our physical walls. This month, 50% of the offering will go to Homeboy Industries. Founded in 1988 by Jesuit priest Father Greg Boyle, Homeboy Industries provides hope, training, and support to formerly gang-involved and previously incarcerated people, allowing them to redirect their lives and become contributing members of our community. Each year, over 10,000 former gang members from across Los Angeles come through Homeboy Industries' doors in an effort to make a positive change. They are welcomed into a community of mutual kinship, love, and a wide variety of services ranging from tattoo removal to anger management and parenting classes. A powerful example of the impact of liberating love, Homeboy Industries is the largest gang intervention, rehabilitation, and reentry program in the world. There are many ways to give. You can see the slide for how to give online or by text. You can still also make out a check to the church for any of these fundraising goals, or drop cash or check into the baskets that our ushers will bring out shortly. Thank you for all that you give to support the life of our church and the wider world. Your financial generosity is love and faith in action. The offering will now be gratefully received.
We will all sing the first and fourth verse together. The second verse, if you feel like singing soprano or alto, I invite you to sing the second verse. And if you're a tenor or a bass, and I invite you to sing the third verse. And then when we get to the refrain, we will all sing that together as well.
May you go forth into this day in the spirit of peace and ahimsa. May you hold fast to that which is good and return to no person evil for evil, but strengthen the faint of heart, support the weak, help the afflicted, honor all beings. May you go forth into this day and be blessed, and may you also be a blessing. Amen.